But we are, after all, the United States of America. So what is it that unites us? Truth and freedom.
Wednesday that feels like a Monday. It is January 2, 2019.
It's going to be a great year, right? This is going to be a wonderful year. I'm claiming it right now.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great year if all goes as many celebrated the New Year's Eve. We'd like to see how you rung in 2019, and we've got some of your pictures.
You were in Florida, right?
I was down in Florida.
Okay.
This is Bernadette, by the way. This in from her and her trip celebrating New Year's Eve in Tampa, Florida, which is beautiful this time of year.
Close to you, Steve.
Same state.
And check out Sherry celebrating New Year's Eve and the 55th wedding anniversary with her family. Congratulations.
And meanwhile, take a look at Andrew's dog, Olive, all decked out as he rang in 2019.
How cute is that?
Very, very cute. Keep your pictures coming. Friends at FoxNews.com. We're going to be showing them all morning long, and we post them on social media.
That's when you put something on your dog's head like that and you say, honey, quick, take the picture, quick.
Right.
Because the dog goes like this.
Olive does that.
Because dogs don't want to be embarrassed either. We're going to talk more about on what embarrasses dogs a little bit later. But I tell you what ticks a lot of Americans off, Democrats and Republicans, to see the chaos at the border on New Year's Eve. That's exactly what was happening. They say about 150 plus would-be illegal immigrants, if they had their way, were trying to storm across the border when border guards were again forced to act and shoot tear gas in their direction while avoiding rocks.
Well, the reason they did launch the tear gas and the pepper spray was because a number of the migrants, part of the caravan, by the way, were throwing rocks, and then they were pushing women and children toward the front of the group. Apparently, they were forcing, according to some news reporting, forcing children to climb over the razor wire, and they were lowering people down under the razor wire along the U.S. side of the fence, and that's when the Border Patrol intervened to try to make sure nobody got hurt. The pepper gas and tear gas was aimed at the rock throwers, not the people who were trying to burrow under that part of the old dilapidated fence.
One of the witnesses that was down there was standing in front of, on the U.S. side of the fence, and on the other side, on the Mexican side, there was a big mound. You can kind of see it there. And he said that that's where everyone was standing, and that they were hurling rocks over the fence onto the American side and hitting our officers, or our Border Patrol agents, in the face with rocks. They were wearing shields, thank goodness, and then they had their helmets on too.
I think that Democrats and Republicans, there are a few issues that should unify us. This should be avoided. This should be condemned, what's happening on our southern border, and our border guards should be backed up. That includes a barrier. That includes, in some cases, a wall. That includes some virtual fencing. Bottom line is, while Washington dawdles and they get in there, sit back to back instead of face to face, there is chaos on our border. Katie Waldman, a DHS spokesperson, knows as much as anybody at Homeland Security, put out this statement. The agents involved should be applauded for the handling of this situation with no reported injuries to the attackers. Unfortunately, Congress continues to ignore the professional advice from men and women of the Border Patrol who have told them that walls work. Congress needs to fully fund the border wall.
And that is exactly what the president has called for. But as you know, we're now up to day 12, I believe, of the partial government shutdown. And it's all because the Democrats will not give the president $5 billion. He would like $25 billion to build the wall. Now, he has called in top Republicans and Democrats to the White House later today. According to the White House, it is unknown whether or not any Democrats are actually going to show up. This is supposed to be a briefing on border security, and all they'd have to do is play the video we just showed you and say, look, we've got a problem with the wall. That wall in that spot is dilapidated. People are able to crawl under it. Also, they're able to climb over it. We've got to do something about it. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have made it very clear they don't want to give the president a single nickel. president, on the other hand, has made it very clear he will keep the government shut down unless he gets some money.
He's ready to negotiate. He tweeted this out. He said, border security and the wall thing and shutdown is not where Nancy Pelosi wanted to start her tenure as Speaker. Let's make a deal, because Nancy's going to be elected as Speaker tomorrow. Today's the last full day of the 115th.
So many times Republicans
Congress
want to bolster up defense over the last 50 years, and so many times Democrats want to bolster social programs, so they give and take. Part of the reason why the budget was so much is because for the president to rebuild the military, he needed to give in to Democrats for the social program. So what do Democrats want now? The number one program is infrastructure. So now that we're in the new year, and Nancy Pelosi in a couple of days will become the official Speaker, do they sit down the same way, even though it's you have to suspend logic to think that it's not a Democratic Republican issue? If border security means a lot to Republicans and not Democrats, and Democrats want infrastructure, do we do the deal in that way?
But
do you offer this program for that program?
But infrastructure is not on the table. The Democrats have made it very clear they're going to put out 2 bills tomorrow. One would fund most of the government through September. The other bill would fund Department of Homeland Security at current levels,
Which is $1.3 billion.
Yeah, just
For
the
border
whole
security.
department through February. So there is no grand deal here, and we're not even sure that the Democrats are going to show up. And I've heard that one of the bills has scores of pet projects for lawmakers of both sides of the aisle, which is traditional Washington. I heard from somebody at the White House yesterday that they think that there is a proposal from some Democrats to actually put foreign funding to foreign governments into this bill, while at the same time no money to protect our
and that could be Central and South America, because the Guatemala, Ecuador, El Salvador, these are where these people are coming from, some with bad intentions, some with not intentions. Some are desperate, and some are just being promised a rose garden when the one doesn't exist. And the question is, too, if you're coming to Washington to see the Smithsonian, 19 Smithsonian museums are closing. If you go to the National Zoo, no reason to wake the hippos or the tigers, because you can't get into there. I was in St. Augustine over the weekend, or a few days ago, and I went to go to that ancient first settlement in America, shut down. No one was allowed in, and a lot of people plan their vacations around that. So already people are being inconvenienced, and you wonder if they're going to ramp up the pain and if that'll improve the process for negotiation.
It is an inconvenience, yes, but the president is saying most of the people are good people, but there are some bad apples in the group, and even though it is an inconvenience, he's saying that your safety and your security as an American, he said, you deserve to be able to go to sleep at night and not have to worry about being killed by an illegal immigrant. And we've seen that happen. We've seen there's so many moms and dads that we've interviewed that say, yes, it's very rare that this is going to happen, but it can happen, and it happened to my child. And the president is saying, I want to prevent other families from going through the loss.
How about a police
officer? You've got this police officer in California. Yeah, it was just, he suspected this guy, a driver, of driving intoxicated, so he pulls him over, and the guy pulls out a gun and shoots him, and there's the police officer.
Ronald Singh is shot at a routine traffic stop.
As a baby.
The person who is accused of murdering him is Gustavo Arriguia, 33. He's being held without bail. He will be arraigned later today. The suspect is a known criminal alien, and he is a gang member. And after the shooting, he led officers on a days-long manhunt. Apparently, 8 people now are in jail regarding this. He is charged with murder. 7 others are charged with actually trying to help him while he was on the run.
All right, so this, Sheriff Adam Christensen did an op-ed and put it in The Hill, and here's an excerpt from it. He says, end political vitriol, solve immigration to honor Officer Zing. He went on to say this in an excerpt. In an effort to protect undocumented immigrants from law enforcement over some ill-conceived perception that we target this undocumented population, they've also created sanctuary for criminals. They're protecting from accountability and consequence. These predators who victimize and exploit others, all while silencing crime victims. This isn't a platform at the RNC or DNC. This is a person who's out there fighting crime, illegal immigration, and sees what sanctuary cities is not helping, it is hurting.
These men and
Sanctuary
women,
state. It's California.
these men and women, they put their lives on the line. They don't make a lot of money. And then when something like this happens, The family that is left behind is stuck with all this financial burden. So this wonderful organization, Tunnel to Towers, you know this organization, developed after 9/11. His brother ran through the tunnel to go help folks in the towers. And so they're raising money, this organization, to pay off her mortgage now.
That's
she has
right.
a little one.
Singh joined the force in 2011. He has a 5-month-old son and is survived, as you see, by his wife. So they're going to need some help.
So far, apparently, Tunnel to Towers has raised $204,000 to pay off his mortgage. If you would like to help, you can see it right there, tunneltotowers.org.
All right. Meanwhile, at 11 minutes after the hour, let's go over to Jillian, who's following other stories for us.
That's right, and we have some news, so let's get right to this Fox News alert. Washington Governor Jay Inslee is running for president. That's according to The Atlantic. The Democrat is jumping into what is expected to be a crowded field. Inslee is a frequent Trump critic and will focus his platform on climate change. He served more than 10 years in Congress before being elected governor in 2012. The family of a retired Marine detained in Russia on espionage charges fear for his safety. Paul Whelan was in Moscow for a wedding when Russian officials took him into custody, accusing him of spying. Whelan's twin brother joined us earlier saying he is innocent.
Paul is a person who likes to travel the world, and he's a kind and a generous person. And when a friend of his, a former Marine, asked him to help with a wedding ceremony that he was going to be having in Moscow, Paul agreed to help because Paul had already been to Russia a number of times.
American diplomats have not yet been able to meet with him. President Trump says he's open to a second summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The president tweeting in part, quote, "I also look forward to meeting with Chairman Kim, who realizes so well that North Korea possesses great economic potential." President Trump is responding to Kim's New Year's address, where he said he hoped for another meeting. Kim also warned that new sanctions could slow the denuclearization process. And how about this? One lucky person ringing in the new year a whole lot richer. One winning Mega Millions ticket sold at an auto repair shop on Long Island, New York. I wonder if it was Brian. The prize is a whopping $425 million. Smaller prizes are also possible, so check your tickets. Winning numbers are 34, 44, 57, 62, 70, the Mega Ball 14. Do you have anything you want to tell us, Brian?
No, I don't play the lottery.
I don't either.
I'm against it. I believe you should earn things. You shouldn't win things.
So
What if you earn-
for $2, you're not willing to gamble $2 for $425 million?
I don't wait for for ping pong balls, and I don't scratch anything off.
Are we
Don't-
talking
okay.
about the lottery?
Right.
Right.
Not sure what that means, but okay. I understand the scratch off, but ping pongs?
Oh, the ping pong balls, yeah. I don't wait for them to pop up.
Okay.
Right.
Well, many people do play, and somebody could be very rich. In the meantime, 7:13 here in New York City now, and a Fox News alert. Police raiding a suspected terrorist home overnight after a knife attack on New Year's Eve. Our next guest hunted terrorists for a living and says there's no end in sight to these lone wolf attacks.
Plus, after those scandals, think Mark Zuckerberg learned his lesson? Well, think again why he's being called tone deaf this morning. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo granting 29 New Year's clemencies. Those off the hook include 22 immigrants who, because of convictions mostly related to drug crimes, could have been deported.
The governor taking a shot at President Trump over border security, saying in a statement, while President Trump shuts down the federal government over his obsession with keeping immigrants out, it called them to illegal immigrants, New York stands strong in our support for immigrant communities. These actions will help keep immigrant families together. What they're missing is the illegal part.
Maureen Maloney's son, Matthew, was killed by an illegal immigrant in 2011, and she joins us now to react. Thank you so much for being with us. First of all, good morning. Tell us, for folks at home that aren't familiar with your story, what happened to your son?
So my son, Matthew Denise, was 23 years old, and he had just graduated college. He was coming home on his motorcycle in a residential area when he was hit by a truck driven by an illegal alien. Matthew survived the collision, but the illegal alien fled, ran Matthew over, and dragged him a quarter of a mile to his death.
Wow. So Andrew Cuomo sits down there and says, "Thank you, New York, for my third term. Look at the Statue of Liberty. We're a nation of immigrants." What he's missing is the illegal immigrant part of this. How aggravating, how does that make you feel?
You know, it's very upsetting, and, you know, Governor Cuomo has a history of pardoning illegal aliens. In fact, he's been criticized recently because some of those that he pardoned over the summer have been arrested for new crimes that they've committed. And I also noticed in your intro he said that these actions will help keep immigrant families together. Well, building a wall and securing our border will help keep American families together by preventing illegal aliens from killing thousands of innocent Americans each year.
Wow. What is your message to Governor Cuomo this morning when you know that he pardoned these illegal immigrants?
Well, you know, he's pandering to the illegal aliens. He's spouting rhetoric. He's instilling fear in legal immigrants in the community. He's misleading his constituents. And I think he's just pandering for votes for his 2020 presidential run. His job is to keep Americans safe. That should be his priority, along with Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren. Their job is to keep Americans safe. They need to secure our border and protect Americans, keep American families together.
Maureen, it's such an insult when people say anti or pro-immigrant. No one's anti-immigrant. There's a process to getting here. And I think most clear-thinking Americans understand this. This should not be political. And it wasn't until recently. Why now?
You know, I don't know why it is now, but we allow over 1 million legal immigrants to enter our country every single year. We are a nation that welcomes legal immigrants. It is the illegal immigrants that we have an issue with. They're coming across our border. They're not vetted. We don't know what diseases they're bringing. And it's not fair to those that are doing the process legally and paying the fees and waiting for their turn to come here.
It's interesting because I heard you say keep American families together. Governor Cuomo says these actions will help keep immigrant families together. Thank you, Maureen, for being with us. We're sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much.
All right, Maureen. 28 minutes now after the hour.
Still ahead, terrifying moments at the zoo. A 2-year-old little girl falls into the rhino exhibit. We are live outside of the hospital coming up.
Yeah, this is no Anchorman sequel. That really happened. And failed presidential candidate Mitt Romney crashing the current president in a new op-ed saying President Trump's character falls short. Dan Bongino says Mitt Romney is a disgrace. He hadn't even gotten the job yet. He joins us next.
Bongino ringing in the new year with his wife and children. As you can see, they're taking a selfie down in Florida.
Oh, so now we see what his wife looks like, because we always hear, Dan, that she's sleeping in the room next door when you're on with us.
Mm-hmm. Wake her up, see if she wants to come out.
There she is, and your girls are so cute.
I was a little hesitant to give your producers that photo because I know I'm going to get emails now like, gosh, she's such a beautiful woman. Why marry Bongino? That's crazy. I definitely married her. She is a 10 out of 10. I love her to death.
That is very nice of you to say.
All right, 27 minutes before the top of the hour. Now, Dan, you also, as a former Secret Service agent, author, you wrote Spygate, the attempted sabotage of Donald J. Trump. Before we talk about that, Mueller, which we'll be talking about all through 2019, I was stunned about 8 o'clock last night. Out comes a Washington Post op-ed from Mitt Romney, a senator to be, about to take over, maybe play a major role on so many different issues. He's taking direct shots at the president. Why?
Because he's a sellout, he's a fraud, he's a phony, he's a fake. This is the kind of guy who has absolutely decimated the Republican Party. You know, Brian, when there's a museum left to the remnant of the swamp GOP, and we're all walking through this museum in 20 or 30 years when there used to be the GOP, Exhibit 1 will be Mitt Romney, followed closely by Jeff Flake. You know, Jeff Flake had to pass the baton of GOP sellouts, and they couldn't even wait. The race isn't even over yet. Romney doesn't even swear in, I believe, until Thursday. Right. So they couldn't even wait to pass the baton. And what's even more disgraceful about this Romney op-ed, and listen, I spoke positively about Mitt Romney for a very long time. We ran in the same election cycle. And this is a disgusting move. This is the same guy who went up to Bedminster. Donald Trump gave him a chance even after Romney shellacked him, unnecessarily so. And Trump gave him a chance. He gave him another chance, having dinner with him in Manhattan, the president that is, and interviewed him for jobs. And you know what? He endorsed Romney, the president. You want to talk about character, you big phony fraud fake? You know what? You should have never taken that endorsement if this is how you felt. This guy's a disgrace. He's an embarrassment. I'm embarrassed for him, the people of Utah, and anyone who supported this fraud. What a fake.
Well, I tell you what, Dan, a portion of the op-ed in the Washington Post reads this. his conduct, talking about the president's, over the past 2 years, particularly his actions this month, is evidence that the president has not risen to the mantle of the office. Trump's words and actions have caused dismay around the world. He was very forthcoming, though, in the beginning of it. He said, look, Donald Trump was not my choice during the election cycle. Then when he became the nominee, I hoped he would change, but he has not. And so at least he was honest in the beginning.
Honest about what, though, Steve? This is my problem with this. Donald Trump has been crystal clear from the start. I know Brian has some differences of opinion. I respect that. I know a lot of very smart people do as well. He has been crystal clear about his policy, about what he felt about our interventions overseas, right? He had a disagreement with a very well-respected man in Jim Mattis. Mattis respectfully resigns. Trump lets him go and does his own thing. What's the character problem here? The character problem is this phony, fraud, hoaxer, Mitt Romney, pretending to be a conservative who, again, accepted proudly and bragged about it on Twitter, the endorsement of Donald Trump, after he screwed Trump over multiple times. Trump does the right thing, steps up, endorses the Republican, and what does he do? He then turns around, doesn't even swear in yet, and writes this op-ed filleting Donald Trump for character issues, for sticking to his campaign promises. Maybe if Romney would have been a real conservative and not a phony, maybe we wouldn't have had to deal with 2 terms of Barack Obama. But he couldn't because he lost.
What do you think is really going on there, though? Because Americans are scratching their heads this morning saying, like you said, they meet together, they have dinner together, they're shaking hands, they seem to be friends or semi-friends or at least able to get along. And you know what? These Democrats, they're so good at being loyal to one another. Republicans, the party, it's so interesting that the party doesn't. The party shouldn't that, if you're a Republican, shouldn't you support the party no matter who is in office? Or do you support what Mitt Romney's doing? If he doesn't agree with the president, then write an op-ed.
Here's the problem we have, Ainsley. What are our other options? The Democrats want to destroy the country immediately. The swamp rat Republicans are the managed decliners. Don't worry, we'll just manage the decline of the country while we all keep our bow ties on and eat our foie gras lunches and get our money from our lobbyists. But you don't have a choice. This is, in the world of ethics, it's all about gray. It's never black and white. So, yes, the problem is we had to vote for someone like Romney. The real fight is in the primaries when we got to get rid of guys like this. And what you asked me what's going on, here's what's going on. There is still a big class of donors and interests out there that cannot let go of the fact that Donald Trump does not care about the old ways of doing business. You may not like it. You may think he's a little rough around the edges. Fine. Have your opinions. He's not interested in the old ways of doing it. What else do you need to hear? He has already done things that the swamp has told him not to do because he made those campaign promises. And Romney is the guy representing those moneyed interests. I'm telling you right now, he's setting someone up to either run himself in 2020 or to back some swamp rat to run against Trump. He's going to be the guy marshaling the effort.
Even if he feels this way, I just don't get the tactics. Because I'm sure there's senators who prefer not to see Stormy Daniels and Horseface and some of these tweets that make no sense. But why does it work to his advantage to go and try to eviscerate the president before he actually becomes the senator from Utah? It doesn't make any sense.
It's not. It's not. It's just a really dumb decision. He's a sellout. He sold us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just saw a preview of coming attractions. This revved up. Dan Bongino is going to be hosting the 5 later today.
Don't miss it.
We look forward to it.
Wait, you're in Florida, though. You're taking a flight right after this?
Listen, I work. I never stop at this place. This is my home studio. I'm jumping on a flight in a half an hour. I'm headed up to you guys.
You're a hard worker. We appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe you can borrow Jesse Waters' plane. He's got a plane.
He does?
Yeah. See if you can borrow it.
Yeah, I don't think he'd lend it to me if he did.
All right, Mr. Bongino, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, it is 20 minutes before the top of the hour, and Jillian joins us with some news from the Centers for Disease Control.
Right, so let's talk about the flu. I know we're all good because we got the flu shot here on Fox and Friends, but a lot of people still haven't gotten their flu shot, and the CDC is warning significant flu is still to come this season. The agency recommending people get vaccinated now as cases of the flu spike around the country. They say it takes 2 weeks for the flu shot to kick in. So far, 11 kids have died from the flu this season. A record-breaking 80,000 people died from the flu last season, so you still have time to get that flu shot. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg slammed over his end-of-the-year message. Zuckerberg writing in part, quote, "We fundamentally altered our DNA to focus more on preventing harm in all our services, and we've systematically shifted a large portion of our company to work on preventing harm." Online users calling Zuckerberg's message tone-deaf after several privacy scandals last year. Krispy Kreme is consoling a police department after a delivery truck goes up in flames. The company offering to send treats to officers in Lexington, Kentucky. After this, look at this hilarious tweet about the fire went viral. The department posting pictures of crying officers in front of the Krispy Kreme truck with the caption, "No words." No one was hurt in the fire, so they were able to have a little fun with it. But it's nice that Krispy Kreme is, doing their part.
Rising to the
make the
occasion.
officers feel better.
That's all. All right. Thank you very much.
You know, somebody who never has to feel better, she's always in a good mood. Janice Dean is outside. Yo!
Look at this, and my beautiful crowd for 2019 is here. All right, okay, what's your name?
Joy.
And you're from Sanford, North Carolina?
Yes.
And what's your name?
Jay.
And you're from Sanford, Florida?
Correct.
And you're together?
Yes.
But you're not married?
No.
I'm confused. All right, we'll talk about that. And what's your name, lady?
Barbara.
And where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
And you're a teacher, right?
I am, first grade.
And you love my lunchbox jokes on Instagram?
I do. I steal them and I tell them myself and act like they're mine.
Yes! If you want lunchbox jokes, you can go to Instagram, Janice Dean FNC. Okay, let's take a look at the maps real quick. Across the Northeast, it's 35 here in New York, but you know what? It is so cold across portions of the Southwest that we had snow in parts of Arizona and New Mexico. That is on the move over Texas, Louisiana. We're going to have a messy, messy day across the Southwest. Look at that. Freezing rain, sleet, ice across portions of Dallas, Texas, down through San Angelo. We have winter weather advisories, so we'll be watching this storm system over the next couple of days. Thanks for coming, y'all. Yeah. Say hi to Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
Good morning. We'll be out there in a little while to say hey to you.
In about 5 minutes. All right. Thanks, JD. Meanwhile, straight ahead, Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, is recovering from announcing her 2020 White House bid on Instagram Live. And now she's heading to Iowa this weekend. But our next guest says her run will sink the Democratic Party.
And we are grabbing the bull by the horns, literally. We are learning how to ride a mechanical bull live on the Fox Square.
There were some terrifying moments at the zoo after a tiny toddler fell into a rhino exhibit.
Could you imagine if you're the parent? Amanda McKenzie from our Fox affiliate in Florida is live at the Orlando hospital where that little girl is now recovering. Good morning, Amanda. Tell us what happened.
Good morning. Yes, a very scary way to start the new year for one family when their 2-year-old daughter had to be airlifted to the hospital here in Orlando after tripping and falling backwards into a rhino play area at Brevard Zoo. The zoo director tells us they think one rhino touched the child with its snout, her two parents jumping in after her to get her out of there. You can see in this photo from Twitter by one of the zoo guests that you can see a small shoe left behind in that enclosure. That shoe is believed to belong to that injured toddler. Now, the zoo director says she was crying and had a small injury to her face, but says those injuries are from the fall and not from the rhino. Now, the viewing area and the enclosure are both on ground level, so this child did not fall from an elevated point. Now, the girl's father says she is still here at the hospital recovering, and the mother who jumped in to save her was also injured but has been treated and released for a minor injury to her arm. For now, that rhino encounter is closed indefinitely until they can figure out how to prevent something like this from ever happening again. Stephen Ainsley?
Yeah, you saw them with the measuring tape. They're trying to probably see how many more posts they need to put up in between. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, Brian.
All right, 13 minutes before the top of the hour. Elizabeth Warren heading to Iowa this weekend. Her first trip to the early caucus state, just days after taking a major step towards a 2020 run for president.
I've made a big announcement today. I'm really excited. We had donations from all 50 states. A lot of $5 here and $10 there, and you go girls. Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
Enjoy your beer.
I want to start 2019 in this fight.
Our next guest says this style shows exactly why Warren will sink the Democrats and ultimately fail in a run for the Oval Office. Washington Examiner columnist Tom Rogan joins us now. Tom, what was the point of the beer?
Well, I think it was to show, Brian, a sense of contemporary reality in terms of, look, I'm just a normal American, but the rigid nature in which she had to disappear off camera. You would think that someone doing a casual Instagram post would have the beer next to them if they were being genuine. But I think this is the problem for Elizabeth Warren, that she is both too distant from most of the electorate in terms of her personal demeanor, but also too unaware of that distance, that she senses it's something that's not that important. So in that duality, she is not well predisposed towards winning, I think, the presidency.
And, you know, even in her announcement of an exploratory committee, it was trafficky. She didn't want to answer any questions. Everything was so generic. And honestly, I thought it was kind of interesting. She didn't go out and just rip President Trump, which she does regularly. What do you think that tactic is about?
Well, I don't know what the tactic is about. I don't know a lot of what the thought process is behind her political campaigning, because it doesn't seem terribly conducive to her better interests. But I do think one of the big systemic challenges that she faces, beyond any sort of personality issues in terms of absent charisma, is the fact that when she does articulate her policy positions, and we've seen this on foreign policy, we've seen it on Dodd-Frank in terms of banking regulations, for example, there is a reliance on sort of simple one-line saleable things that is designed to appeal to a particular part of the Democratic Party, but the actual policy formulation lacks a sort of either a simplicity of purpose or a kind of unifying agenda. Something that, for example, the wall is identified with President Trump or Barack Obama. Hope and change. Narratives that have appeal are not ones that find their way to her.
Tom, just real quick answer. Is she top tier or not? Is she top 5?
No, I don't think she is, and I think the major reason for that is she's destroyed her brand with the identity base of the Democratic Party, which is very important because of the Native American blood test.
Right, 23andMe. Not good. All right, thanks, Tom Rogan. Great to see you.